There are a number of incredibly high quality podcasts on the Australian property market. Now, what I love about these podcasts is everyone has a completely different perspective or opinion. There are some people that just talk about cash flow or capital growth. There are other podcasts that talk about cash flow, growth, manufacturing value, finance, development, and renovating, all that fun stuff property related. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about 5 of my favorite podcasts. Now, one of my favorite podcasts is the On Property podcast. Now, that's over there with Ryan McLean from onproperty.com.au, and Ryan is up to episode 650 or something like that. He's done a crazy amount of podcasts. It's been running now for the last 5 years, and he talks about personal finance tips. He talks about the market, his thoughts on where it's going. I regularly feature on that podcast and share some of the tips and tricks as a professional buyer's agent who's bought over $250 million worth of property. I share client stories with Ryan. I talk about the market, our research, and what's going on. So that's a really good resource, whether you're just getting started or whether you're really moving forward. And one of my favorite episodes over there is Ryan's 2 properties to financial freedom strategy. So go check that out. Rather than the old way of going out there and buying 10 properties in 10 years, there's a much simpler way to do it. Now, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up at the end if you like this video. Now, the next podcast, shameless self-plug, I'll do a disclaimer there, is the Pumped On Property, excuse my writing, it's horrible, show. Now, we're up to episode 30 at the time of recording this video, but have plans on producing literally thousands of podcasts over the next 10 years. And in the Pumped On Property show, we take a slightly different approach to Australian property because my personal strategy is good assets are a number of things. They get good long-term growth, they get strong cash flow, you make money on the way in through manufacturing value, you time the market effectively, you follow the rules based on history of buying quality assets like houses on nice big blocks of land, and sometimes we even talk about a newer concept like dual income. So my approach to the Pumped On Property Show podcast is it's data backed, it's experience backed, it's research backed, and it's based on what's actually going on the ground. The problem with so many of the podcasts is most of the people running them aren't actively buying and selling properties, where on a monthly basis we might buy 7 to 15 properties in our business and have been doing that for years and years and years. I also share a lot of my personal experiences from buying 12 properties for myself by the age of 33, and some of the mistakes that I've made as well as some of the lessons that I've learned. Another one of my favorites is the Property Couch. Now, that's over there with Bryce and Ben, and I think it's up to episode like 230 now. It's got lots of thumbs up, 4 and 5 star reviews on iTunes, and it's one of my favorites. Now, those guys are a Melbourne-based buyer's agent. That's kind of their thing down there. That's what they specialize in. But they really talk about all sorts of tips and tricks. They give you really good market updates. They talk about things like finance, like interest rates, like borrowing money. I think one of them's a financial planner, or both of them might be planners as well. So they talk about strategy. They talk about properties that their businesses are buying, and a lot of the tips and tricks inside the industry as well. So really, really good high quality podcast as well. Now, another podcast that I love is the I Love Real Estate podcast. Now, that's over there with Dimfna Boholt. Now, Dimfna's a property, I suppose, educator, you call her, and even though she hasn't been doing the podcast regularly lately, there's some really, really good old school archive information there. Now, Dimfna, I think, is a trained accountant. There's some really good finance tips in there. There's some really good accounting tips. There's lots of different ideas because Dimfna's approach to investing is kind of, make chunks of cash on properties, or more of that developing style of scenarios. So she's run a bunch of podcasts over there, which I found really helpful. I've also done some of her training, which everybody has a different opinion on. You can go on and read the reviews on that training online and stuff like that. But I found some of the stuff that she talked about from a trust and a structuring perspective, as well as some of the financial advice stuff that she was giving out for me in my situation was interesting. She also definitely opened my eyes up to different ideas around developing. The last podcast that I've just gotten onto recently is the Hot Spotting podcast. Now, this is an interesting podcast over there with Terry. Terry's a bit of a data analyst or data geek, which I absolutely love. He's really good at researching areas and talks about things from a bit of a different perspective rather than just focusing on the big cities in Australia. Terry looks at the indicators across different markets and talks about, where's hot, where's not, where you should be looking at and where you should be avoiding based on current market conditions, where looks good for the future and where has performed well in the past. So another really good, nice short sharp episodes over there of between 3 and 10 minutes just to get your little daily dose or weekly dose of property stuff. So like I said, On Property and the Pumped On Property show, I have a vested interest in because I regularly feature in On Property and I do the Pumped On Property show, but both have really, really good value if you're interested in learning from people with actual experience. The Property Couch is a big favorite. I Love Real Estate and Hot Spotting also got some good information. So I wish you all the best. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this channel. Please jump over and check out the Pumped On Property show or the On Property podcast. If you like it, give us a 5-star rating and really appreciate it. Thanks for continuing to learning and thanks for checking this out today.